call the meeting of the Stayton City Council for October 2nd to order, slightly after 7 o'clock. Councilor Julia will be excused tonight. With that, will you please join me in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start with announcements. Is there any additions to the agenda by anybody? No. Declaration of ex parte contacts, conflict of interest, bias, etc. No. Any appointments tonight? Nope. Opportunity for public comment. Tammy, do you have any public comments? No, thanks. Move on to consent agenda for September 18th. Both the work session minutes and the regular session minutes. What would the council like to do?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Patty. I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to accept the consent agenda as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-0. We'll do presentations. An opportunity to recognize some milestones with city employees. Alyssa?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I am happy to be here once again and congratulating some of our employees who have hit some milestones. We recognize them every year. Those who have hit 5, 10, 15, 20, in this case tonight, we've got some 25. So I'm going to read a short little bio that the employee has submitted, and we have certificates. I know some of them are here in the building tonight. So first up, we have Kendall Smith. Kendall is currently the Public Works Utility Supervisor. He has been with the city for 25 years and has been a utility operator 1 and 2, and now is serving in his current role as supervisor. He has served on the city's safety committee in the past and attended Chemeketa Community College in their forestry program. He has kept up with certifications, including a level 2 in water treatment and distribution and pesticide applicator's license. He also has his CDL. Kendall's family includes his wife, Lori, his children, Abe, Grace, and Henry, and he has 2 grandchildren, Ruby and Jackson. In his off time, Kendall enjoys fishing, hunting, woodworking, and gardening. He is a member of the Knights of Columbus and takes care of maintenance at St. Bernard's Catholic Church in Scio. And I know Kendall's here. Congratulations, Kendall.
I'll save you the speech.
Oh.
Thank you for your service, Kendall.
All right, next up is Joe Gesick, and Joe has been with the city of Stayton for 15 years in the Public Works Wastewater Department. Prior to coming to Stayton, Joe worked for the city of Atascadero, California, and the city of Salem. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran. He attended Chemeketa Community College and the University of Phoenix. Joe has continued his education with his Oregon Grade 2 wastewater operator license and a commercial driver's license. Joe's family includes his wife, Wendy, sons, John and Andrew, and dog, Fern. When not working, he enjoys doing wildlife art with his son. I don't think Joe's here tonight, but we want to thank Joe for his service.
Yes, we do.
Next up is Police Sergeant Dean Butler, who I do believe is in the house tonight. He's in the back there. During his 15 years of service to the city of Stayton, Sergeant Dean Butler has held the role of patrol officer, reserve coordinator, cadet advisor, field training officer, school resource officer, detective, and currently is serving in the role of sergeant. Sergeant Butler has served as a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, Oregon Chiefs Association, Oregon School Resource Officer Association, Marion County Child Abuse MDT, Marion County Vulnerable Adult MDT, and the Marion County Sexual Assault Team. Prior to working for the city of Stayton, Sergeant Butler worked as a reserve officer for the Almsville Police Department. He attended Chemeketa Community College In 2011 and 2019, he was named Officer of the Year. In 2018, he received the Recognition of Outstanding Service Award. Sergeant Butler has been married 31 years to his wife Lisa and has a daughter Haley, who's 26, and a son Jordan, who's 22. When not working, he enjoys camping and yard work. He also has served on the Santiam Youth Sports Board for 7 years, the Stayton High School Boosters for 6 years, and the Knights of Columbus for 38 years. And thank you, Dean. All right, up next is Mike Brash. He could not be here tonight, but Mike has worked for the city now for 15 years. He started with us as an engineering tech in Public Works, and now he handles all the facilities maintenance for the city. So we just want to thank Mike for his 15 years. Thanks, Mike. This is why you read in class as a child, like
Yes.
read out loud, right?
Yes.
All right, we've got two more. Next up is Officer David Bevins, who is back here also. Officer Bevins has worked as an officer at the Stayton Police Department for 5 years. Prior to being hired full-time in 2018, he was a reserve officer for the city for 6 years. In 2012 and 2013, he attended the Reserve Academy. He was awarded the Reserve Officer of the Year twice. In 2018, while attending the Police Academy, he was one of 4 out of 40 to receive a shooter's pin for marksmanship and received the Top Shooters Award at his academy class. He has received several certifications in his 5 years, including a certified motor officer in 2018, patrol motorcycle operation, a drug recognition expert in 2022, field training officer in 2022, an SFST, which is a standardized field sobriety tests instructor, 2023. Officer Bevins' family includes his wife Melanie of 29 years and daughter Maddie, who is a junior in college. His hobbies include riding motorcycles, camping with his family, and working on classic cars and motorcycles. Thanks, David. And last but definitely not least, he's not here tonight, but it's Ian Kintz Stormo. He started with the city as a temporary employee in the Public Works Administration Department. He then was hired on permanently as an engineering technician. He has been with the city for 5 years. Ian has been the AFSCME local union president for the past 2 years. In 2016, he graduated from OSU with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. He continues to stay current on issues with certifications in areas such as erosion and sediment control lead, I'm not sure. Ian grew up in the area and has a lot of family in Stayton. His hobbies include playing guitar, singing karaoke, gardening, and hiking. And I just learned this recently, and I think it's pretty cool. He plays bass guitar in a Black Sabbath tribute band. So pretty awesome. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's very talented on that bass, let me tell you. So thank you all for your service.
Yes,
It really
thank
means
you.
a lot to the city and to the residents that live here. So you're very appreciated whether you hear it or not, or hear it a lot or not. So thank you for the council. Anybody else on council? Questions? No? Okay, with that, thank you. We'll move to general business, and we're going to do Republic Services rate review, and we'll start off with Alyssa again.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to add here. We've got our representatives from Republic Services who were here last month and had done a work session with the council with a presentation, and the council requested that they come back and do this so that it can be out on our live stream for the public to see. So I'm going to just hand it over and let you guys take it away.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Cindy Rogers.
You guys make sure the green button's illuminated.
It's on.
It's on.
Awesome. You might pull it a
Can
little.
you not hear me?
There you go.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Cindy Rogers, and I am the Municipal Manager for Republic Services. And the gentleman next to me is,
I'm Travis Comfort. Some of you have met me already, and I'm the administrator. I'm here to help her.
all right, thank you. So, like Alyssa said, I was here 2 weeks ago at the work session, and so I'll go through this briefly out of respect for your time. We'll just get right into it. So, staff asked if I could explain what a franchise system is as it relates to solid waste. And so, in Oregon, most cities and counties have elected to go with the franchise for solid waste collection. A franchise is essentially a negotiated contract known as a franchise agreement between a municipality and its provider. In this situation, we're the solid waste provider. Other franchise agreements that you may be familiar with would be cable, telephone, sanitary sewer, electrical, and ambulance service. There's many benefits to a franchise system. One of the benefits is operational efficiencies that decrease truck noise, street wear and tear, air pollution, and public inconvenience. Other operational efficiencies means that it can, the operational efficiencies mean that it can keep the rates lower. And then also in Stayton, we help the city of Stayton to meet the DEQ opportunity to recycle requirements in annual reporting. And then additionally, it's a source of revenue. Currently, the franchise fee in Stayton is 5%. We'll just cover a couple of just interesting facts about the essential services that we provide for the city of Stayton. We have 10 drivers that currently service the city. We're at the homes of nearly 2,300 residents. That's 10 times a month. Approximately 274,000 carts were dumped last year. So we're here once a week for trash, once a week for yard debris with food waste, every other week for commingle recycling, and glass that includes batteries and motor oil and cooking oil. So just a couple of pictures of some events that we've participated in, which was the Big Rig Roundup that was right here in the library. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, I do think that we were the most popular truck by the kids. I think they liked us the best. So we were also at the high school for a career expo. We've got Genesis on the left and Luba on the right. And one thing we did take note of is that there was a lot of interest in the tech positions by both girls and boys, which was fantastic. So a recap of the services, again, 2,300 single-family homes, 6 apartments that we service, 74 commercial businesses, and we did nearly 900 industrial halls for the city of Stayton, and that was drop boxes and compactors. So quickly, we'll just go over the residential services that we provide by cart size. I think this is important because this, I'll point out where the bulk of the residents, where their service levels are. So you've got 226 20-gallon customers. We've got 35-gallon is 958, which is nearly 42%, and 65-gallon is 774, which is nearly 34%. So combined between the 35 and the 65, that makes up about 75% of what people have in the city of Stayton. And then 95-gallon is only about 14%. So the next one we'll just go through real quickly. This just shows trends of the amount of volume that the residents are producing in Stayton from 2020 to 2022. Like I said in the work session, I would say if I was to look at this, the takeaway would be that Stayton has had slow and steady growth, and that the volume that they've produced has been very consistent. We didn't see a big uptick in volume in residential like we did in some of our other communities, and I don't know this to be true, but I speculate that it's because Stayton is made up of a lot of essential workers. Like we are an essential worker in our industry as far as solid waste is concerned, hauling of solid waste. So in addition to the definition of franchise as it relates to solid waste, I did want to explain what we refer to as the 10% target. The 10% target is not to be confused with profit. It is a midpoint in a range of between 8 and 12%. that has been implemented years and years before I was in this industry. And that range protects both the city and the hauler. It makes sure that haulers are not making these huge margins, and it also protects it makes sure that it protects the city by making sure that the haulers aren't making huge margins, and then the hauler is protected to make sure they don't drop below that 8%. So out of the margin comes about between 3 and 4% in taxes. These are not allowable expenses by the jurisdiction, and then 3 to 4% is set aside for reserves, which any well-run business is going to set aside, money for reserves for if a truck goes and you have to replace a truck or transmission or something like that. And then what is left is the returns. The next slide is just a snapshot. It's just a graphic of what I just said. It shows where Stayton falls within that acceptable range of 8 to 12% in relation, and also to the target. So you can see, if you look to the far right, that bottom dark blue line, that it's trending down. This is without an adjustment. We'll get into more of that a little bit. So what are the factors that have gone into us here today asking for a rate adjustment? There's a few different things. Disposal has gone up, like I mentioned in the work session, 22% for yard debris. And then the market for commingle recycle is still very volatile. I don't know that we'll ever get back to the days where we were making revenue from that and it was subsidizing the trash. But we continue to see that market still is very volatile. Labor also has gone up. We did a market adjustment for our technicians. We did have some shortages and we had overtime. And like I mentioned before, we have to pay overtime. If there's somebody has to go home sick, or there's a family emergency, one of the drivers, it's not optional. We have to pick up the trash, and if we have to pay overtime, that's what we do. So repairs and maintenance also went up. That's steel, outside labor, management and admin fees. We filled a couple of positions this year, and so that's more of a correction because we did have a negative number prior to that. So, and then we also saw an increase in consulting fees and bank fees and bad debt. Okay, so per the request of Councilor McDonald and Giglio, you asked for a couple of concrete examples, and so I wanted to provide those for you today. Like I mentioned, we did a market adjustment for the technicians, so they received an 8.49% wage increase, and then our consulting fees went up nearly 78%. And as an example, so the side load trucks, the diesel side load trucks that service most of the residential and some commercial, went from 282,000 to 350. This next slide, I won't spend much time here because we did go into detail on that, but I will draw your attention down to 2/3 of the way down on the right, or on the left, where it says op income as a percentage of revenue. And you can just see that what this is referring to is that target or that range that I speak of. And so in 2021, we were at 2.4% to target. Then we did the rate increase in 2021, and that brought us to 6.2%. And then because of inflation and these other expenses that I just went through, if we do not have an increase, we'll finish out the year at a negative 1.6. So that's a negative $33,000. And then through the end of next year, we would be at a negative nearly 6% at almost $125,000. And we won't go into too much detail. This just breaks out our expenses. Like I mentioned, we were short in a couple of departments. So if you look kind of towards the SG&A where it has the negative 8%, that's because my position was open, and then in finance we had some other positions that were open as well, and we've since filled those. Okay, so the next slide takes 2022's monthly rate for a 35-gallon roll cart. The current rate is $29.18. As you can see, disposal is the number one expense that goes into that rate, and then labor and facilities, so trucks, equipment, dumpsters, drop boxes, all of that. And then we've got the franchise fee is at number 5, and then counselor, or you asked for me to break out the CAT, so I did. It's just that little sliver up in the upper left right there, so it's about 12% of the monthly rate. Okay, so next I'd like to go through 3 options that we're proposing for your consideration, and I want to make sure that we spend a little bit of time on this. So option 1 would be no increase in 2023. In January of 2024, we would have an 18% increase. That would help to get us closer to that target that I referred to earlier. There'd still be a little bit of a gap, but not too much. And then hopefully we'd be able to just do close that gap and then do CPI-U moving forward. And then with that, we would do 2 annual bulky waste day events starting next year. So I know I explained to council in the work session, but the bulky waste events are where people can bring the things that won't fit in their roll cart, and they put them in a drop box. We pick a convenient location, and things like mattresses, cribs, old things that just won't fit, and people love those events. So I think that would be a huge success. So we would start that next year. And then option 2 would be a stair-step approach. And then in November of this year, we would do a 10% increase. And then in April of next year, we would do a 9% increase. There would still be a little bit of a gap to close, but that would still get us within the range and on the not quite to target as well. We'd have a little bit to make up if we decided to, Counselor Giglio asked if we could push that first increase to December, and we could do that. We would be willing to do that. That just means when I come back next year, there'll be a little bit more of a gap to close there, but that's possible. We could do that. So option 3 is November of this year, we would do a 16% increase. Again, that would help to close the gap, not quite as much as options 1 and 2, but it would get us closer. We would be on the low end of the 8 to 12% range. And then we also would still do the 2 annual bulky item events, and that would start next year. So this is just for reference, so in case people don't know what we put the bulky items in. These are the trucks, and these are the drop boxes that we haul the material in. Okay, so the next slide I think is, like I said before, this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. This is what people want to see. This is how their monthly bill will be affected. So we've got on the left their current rate. Then we've got option 1, which was the 18%. Then option 2, the 2-stage rollout. And then option 3. So if we focus on the 35-gallon, which is the most popular size roll cart, you can see that if we go with the 18% option 1, the monthly bill would go up $5.25. Option 2, the first installment would be $2.92, and then in April again $2.89. Option 3 would be $4.67. And then you can see from there, the 67-gallon would go up $7.15, and so on and so forth. So that is really what it would look like on somebody's bill. And then the next slide just takes what I just said, but then breaks it out per bag. So Stayton's rates are bundled. So included in the rate for the trash is whatever size roll cart the customer selects for the trash, and then with that they get the 65-gallon with yard debris with food. They get a 95-gallon commingle recycle. They get the tote with glass, batteries, cooking oil, and motor oil. On the next slide, we're showing a comparison. We were asked to show comparison how Stayton compares to surrounding areas. And I will just say that it's really hard to compare cities and municipalities to each other. Each one is unique, and we treat them as such. You guys do something different as a council than, say, Silverton's council and so on. So I think it's important to say that not only are the services themselves not the same, but the communities themselves are not the same. Things that affect the rate are, how close the community is to where the trucks are dispatched, how close the community is to where the material is going, how dense the community is. So those are other things that affect the rate. But if we do look at this as a comparison, you'll see that Marion County sparse and Marion County rural, they do not have the same services as Stayton. They don't have glass, oil, or batteries, and they also don't have yard debris, let alone with food waste. Silverton would be the closest as far as the services are concerned, but also keep in mind that Marion County rural, Marion County sparse, Salem, and Sublimity are all going to get an increase between now, well, it's probably January 1st. So we're comparing the current rates to if you look at option 1, to your increased rates. And then Silverton will get an increase either this year or early next year. So you can see if you look at option 1 for Stayton, the $34.43 is the increased amount. And then if you look at Marion County sparse, which again, they don't even have the same services, you guys are within 3 pennies of each other. And then they're going to get an increase, which we don't know what that'll be yet. And then the next slide is the exact same comparison, same things apply, but this is for commercial and drop boxes. And the drop box rates include disposal. Next slide, this is the after the adjustment, so with the options, this shows where we get into target compared to target. So if you look at that same line, op income as a percentage of revenue, about 2/3 down. You'll see if you look over to option 1, again, we still finish out the year at negative 0.16, but by the end of next year, we would be at 9.6%. With option 2, we're at a break-even point for this year, and then we would finish out the end of next year at 9.1%. And then option 3, we would finish out this year at about 1%, and then the end of next year at 8.1%. And then the next slide just demonstrates that in a graphic. It has the 3 options and then where it would fall in relationship to the range and the high end of the range, the low end of the range, and then the target. So the dotted red line at the top is the 12% range, and then the bottom is the 8%, and then the solid blue line is the 10%. All right, and then this last slide is basically everything just rolled into one. It shows the current rate, the option 1, option 2, option 3, and then by type of business. So it has residential, commercial, and then drop boxes. It's just all in one snapshot for you. And one last thing, Counselor Ort, you asked about compost pails. And so we did look into the compost pails. We didn't have any, but we did go to Marion County and we took everything that they had, and they only had like 5. So we did grab everything that we have so that we have those. Because like I mentioned in the work session, I think there's some real opportunity there for food waste, for more participation in the food waste. And we'd like to use the bulky waste events as an opportunity to do that community outreach and help educate people on all things recycle, not just food waste, but I think that would be a really good opportunity.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yes.
Before I have council discussion, I was remiss and I missed public comment, so I want to make sure there opportunity for public comment one more time. No public comment. Thank you. So, council, let's proceed with the discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I'll
Mr.
just
Patty.
say, we had this one brought back to the regular session so that the general public could go ahead and kind of understand what we need to do here, what options are in front of us, and staff's obviously seeking direction to craft some sort of resolution to encompass one of these. So that's why it's before us today. My initial inkling is I'm kind of interested in option 3 and what that would look like. If that could be brought back as early as December, I think I'd like to hear more about what that could look like. Councilor Giglio's suggestion interested me on that one, so I'd like to hear what the rest of the council thinks, though.
Councilor McDonald.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I was just doing some quick math, and I don't have a strong lean between either of those. I lean in between option 1 and option 3, I guess. I did have a couple questions for Cindy, though, if this is the right time. You mentioned on one of your slides up there was something crazy like a 77% increase in management or consulting fees.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of give us a little bit of story behind that? And I mean, I could rant for a while on what I think about consultants, but just kind of tell me where that number comes from.
Yeah, part of that is for, it's Mid-Valley Garbage Association, and it's essentially a group of haulers. You may be familiar with the transfer station that's over there off of Brooks. And so we're all a part of this group, and so they had some fees that went up. And so that's a big part of it. I mean, we have to pay those fees.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
My other question was is if there's anything out there in the future that you can foresee that might affect your costs as well. Is there any change in processing or any of the services that you guys depend on that may change your financial outlook significantly? Or
Probably, honestly, inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is dealing with that. So there's an upcoming DEQ thing coming up. It's called the Recycling Modernization Act that is going to go into effect in July of 2025. And we've been working with Alyssa on that, and we will come back to council and present on that as well. So that is something. So what that is in a nutshell, and Travis actually knows the most about this, but it's a statewide standardization over what can be recycled, and it's DEQ isn't rolling it out, and it's supposed to put the onus back on the producers of packaging in order to make it so that to encourage things to be recycled easier at the curb. So we may see some increase in what can be recycled at the curb. We also may see an uptick in contamination because there'll be some confusion. But there's things that the city that we applied for, and Travis, you might be able to speak to this a little bit better, but we applied for with the cities to do things like put in a depot and other services like that, there is going to be funds available. It's still in the works, but that is going to be a huge thing for our industry, for the whole state.
Yeah.
So the one key point I would add on top of putting in a Stayton depot, which would reduce disposal costs going forward, is that the key point with the Recycling Modernization Act is these PROs, these producer responsible organizations, are going to have to pay for that recycling disposal cost. So since 2018 with China Sword, Stayton has seen the increase of disposal of recycling go up almost vertically. It's supposed to put that back at zero. So there wouldn't be a rebate, but they will be responsible. So Starbucks will be responsible for each cup they sell in Oregon to pay a certain figure into this fund.
If
And that's-
if it's not recyclable or whatever.
No,
right?
the cups are, so Starbucks cups and plastic coffee cups will be added to the roll carts starting July 1st of 2025. We'll be coming back and going over the whole new list and stuff. The PROs are also gonna be responsible for the education and outreach. So currently we do that with the county, and that's one of our allowable expenses, but they'll be responsible for designing, printing, making videos, and doing that sort of outreach. So that's a smaller chunk, but that is another layer that will hopefully remove expense off of your balance sheet.
Got it. Awesome.
But
Thank
it's
you.
all very fluid right now, so they haven't even, the list isn't even finalized yet, so.
Sure. As with most statewide things, there's a lot of good intentions behind this, but the mechanics are difficult. So.
Yeah, of course, time will tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But good question.
Councilor
Mr.
Ort?
Mayor?
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead, Councilor Ort and Councilor Sims.
Thank you. Cindy, you were talking about the franchise fee. So on the slide number 3, it says it's an additional revenue source. It's 5%, but then it's on our bill. So I guess I'm looking at that. So the city's charging you, and then so we're being charged, so we're essentially charging our residents another 5% of their bill that's coming back to the city. But
We pay a 5% franchise fee on receipts for the business that we do.
okay,
Yeah, is that?
It's
But then
considered
we-
a pass-through cost, so that's why it's
Yes.
broken out on there. And we added on the slide in the printouts we gave you that it's of gross receipts per the franchise, so it's not on the revenues we take in. So that 5% that we pay the city is usually slightly above our what an operating 5% would look like.
Because it's accounting for like bad debt, so we don't have to pay it on if there's bad debt.
okay.
Is that? So it's a fee that we pay the city for like wear and tear on the streets and the, for access of the public right away and that kind of thing.
We do pay it on bad debt. It's on gross receipts.
Oh, groceries, okay, sorry, stand corrected.
Okay.
Councilor Sims.
As far as the options, I'm leaning towards option 3 myself. And one question I had, it says here that there's going to be a slightly larger than CPI adjustment, or what kind of numbers are we talking about? Several points, or 10%, or?
So it's whatever the gap is. So like say with option 3, we would be at 8.1%. So the difference between, that'd be 1.9 is the gap.
Oh, to get it to
That's-
10%?
Yeah,
goal.
yeah, to get to the 10%, the target. And then whatever CPIU is at the time.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thanks.
I have a question about your bulk waste event.
Yep.
If we were to do that, when we do that, how do you determine a residency to the people that are using that day?
We'd ask for ID.
You do? Okay. And is there a limitation on what you receive from somebody? Can they bring their truckloads of stuff over instead of going to the dump?
Well, we don't really put limits on the volume,
Okay.
but the type of waste, like no household hazardous
Sure.
waste, that type of thing, we don't allow that. But
Right.
we haven't had it be an issue in the
Okay.
past, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
And
and it's free, it's
okay.
free.
And what's the length of something like that, hour-wise? Or a couple hours? How long?
We would like drop it off in the morning and then remove it at the end of the day, so people would have access to it all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there any exceptions to it?
Like
Other-
things you couldn't put in there?
Yeah,
Tires.
Besides, yeah, I mean, exceptions is like, say, for example, that's far-fetched. I won't go there. I was thinking of when we had the ice storm, and the ice storm had all this debris, and so if it just happened to fall on that same weekend,
Well, yeah, we could take that material, yeah.
Just-
Yeah,
just keep-
yard
Wouldn't be
debris.
turned away.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Council, any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort?
I want to go back to this franchise
Sure.
fee. What can you remind me, Alyssa, if you know, or this might be a question for you. What do we use our franchise fees for when we get them? James.
I'm going to let James take that one.
Yeah.
I guess, and specifically, I guess this one, but
Yeah, James Brand, Finance Director for Stayton. That's a good question and something I'm still wanting to do some more research for, but basically it goes into our general fund in the big pot and it's used in normal expenses. So it's not dedicated to any certain thing. I'd like to do more mapping of all of our franchise fees and determine what they really should be serving, but it hasn't been done yet.
okay. Just off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor, just to kind of segue on that, I feel like if we are charging Republic Services this fee, and then it's being charged back to our residents, it's being passed through, that's just more money we are charging our residents. And if the idea of that is that for use of our right-of-ways, our streets and everything, then I feel like it should go, then maybe we should be a little bit more cognizant of like that money going towards our streets. It's just my thought.
Just as a comment, I just learned today that the city of Philomath dedicates, I believe, all of their franchise fees to their street fund.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, it's a great conversation, Councilor, especially if you look at utilities that have to dig up the streets to put the utilities in, and what the
Absolutely.
street conditions are after the fact. So yeah, good conversation for later. Are you good?
I think so.
All right, does council have a consensus or direction for staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor?
several of you have said option 3, and can you just kind of give me an idea of like why you're thinking that over maybe option 1? Is it because the percentage is less? Like an overall percentage is a little less than, I just want to get an idea. I'm kind of going back and forth between the two. I just want to know if you have a stronger feeling or reason why.
I'll speak for myself. For me, option 3 was a lower percentage, and then I felt like that was a lower hit on residents. And then if I'm being abundantly honest, I saw that graph and it looked like option 3 had a lower overall trajectory. So I thought, okay, maybe a few pennies to save our residents. So that's honestly why.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor? That was pretty close to my thoughts. It was 16 versus 18%. I mean, it's immediately with option 3 in November or maybe December, but once again, we're below that 10%. But I think we're going to get hit again with it in 2025 with a higher. I mean, either way, you're going to pay the piper.
Councilor McDonald?
I don't have strong leaning either way, to be honest. I think, you save potentially 2 months of increase, which, spread it out over probably 18 months to make that back. So you're paying the same amount either way. Maybe you're saving yourself $10 and not during the holidays, but again, it's $10. So I don't have a strong feeling either way, other than January 1st is a nice clean date to have something change. Usually makes more sense and it's easier to remember for people. So that would be my only other thought on that.
I think my thought was with like our time constraints, and we were already talking about making this increase in December. Then I guess going with the January 1st. I don't really.
I'm open either way.
I'm with you though. I mean, we're already talking about making up the difference later on. So.
If I had a say in it, I'd support Councilor McDonald's logic. I like it's to the point, January. But you guys open to do what you want to do.
So it sounds like if we wait till January, though, we're going with option 1, and that's 18%, if I'm hearing it right. And then if we did it in December to make that timetable work, we would have to do it in December, and it would be 16%, right? I don't know.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, if we waited till December, it wouldn't be 16. There would be an adjustment from the request would be probably 17, or
So
because the original proposal was to have it start in October or November, right?
yeah, so option 1 is the 18% January one.
Mm-hmm.
Option 2 is 10% November 1 and then 9% April 1. But Counselor Giglio had asked if we could push the first one to December 1st for option 2.
Oh, now I understand.
Yeah.
Totally had that wrong then.
Yeah, and then option 3 is November 1st. But it's 16%, so it is lower percentage.
In that case, I think I'm good with just the 1st of 2024 and making this really easy.
I'm on board with that.
Councilor Ort.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a difference of 75 cents. So,
Is that enough direction, Melissa?
Well, it's 2
Yeah.
months. 2 months at 525 would be
Yeah.
the difference. So.
well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's enough for staff, and we'll get a resolution put together and brought forward at either, I don't know if it'll be the next meeting, but we have a little time being
Gotcha.
it's not going to go into effect until January, so we'll get it on an upcoming agenda.
Okay. Any further discussion with council, or are we good with this? Good? Cindy, thanks for coming. Thanks for doing the presentation
No
a second
troubles, thank
time. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
answering the council's questions. I think you did a great job there, covering all their bases, considering I wasn't there, but it sounds like everything you guys asked was covered, so thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving us the differences between the communities. That makes a big difference. Some of the services that you see in Stayton obviously are not the other locations, so I think the community obviously utilizes those other services, and you can see it on a daily basis, so thank you for that. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for your partnership.
Council Art, go
Appreciate it.
ahead.
Can I just also say, I
Sure.
went home and I told my husband that we could put batteries in our glass thing, and he's like, "That I've been doing that."
Oh.
And so some people know, and other people don't, even in the same household. So
Yes. Yeah.
that could be a good education piece too, because I
Yeah.
never know what to do with my batteries. I just have a drawer of dead batteries.
So we do have your compost pail, and I did take the other 4 from the county, so if anybody else would like
Well,
them
yeah,
while we're
well-
here, I can bring them in.
And we can drop them off.
Or we can take 'em to
yeah,
City Hall.
We can take them to City Hall, and then people, if they're interested, they can.
That,
Cool.
Okay.
that would be fine.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Sorry, one more thing. The other thing I was excited about was pizza boxes. I told my wife about that when I got home. I was stoked, so
Right.
thank you for sharing. In the yard debris,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Green bin.
That's news to me.
I know, so that's what I said.
Thank you.
Hey, we're here to educate.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yes, you're welcome.
Josh.
All right, with that, we will move on to resolution number 1072, which is the bridge grant application. And is Lance online? There he is.
Mr. Mayor, welcome. How are you this evening? Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight is Resolution 1072, a resolution authorizing the city to apply for a local bridge program grant administered through the Oregon Department of Transportation. A little bit about the background here. I'll be brief. As you all know, the city has numerous bridges throughout the city. We have been notified about a month ago that we have 5 bridges, 3 of which are owned actually by the city, 2 of which need to be replaced, and 1 needs some fairly substantial rehabilitation on. With that notification, ODOT has also let us know that we are eligible for a local bridge program grant to help replacement and repair costs. If successful, we would have a 10.27% monetary match of all project costs. I don't have estimated costs on that because we just received this not too long ago, and I haven't had an opportunity to put any kind of even a 40,000 foot elevation look at this. But my recommendation would be to go forward authorizing this resolution. Let's put the grant in. We can get those high-level costs of what it was going to take. And then if we are awarded a grant, we can decide what we want to do, if we want to accept those grants or not. But at least let's put in for them, and that way we'll know, rather than just letting it go. With that, I'll have answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Lance? Councilor Sims, go ahead.
Lance, the 3 bridges you have on here, which bridges are you looking at? Replacement of 2 and rehabilitation of 1. Is that the main Stayton Canal, 4th Street, and Water Street, and Jetter's Way?
No. Let me see what I have here. There's three of them. 2 of them need replaced. The one on 2nd Avenue needs to be replaced. The one on 4th needs to be replaced, and the one on the water has major rehabilitation. I believe, I don't have that list in front of me, Counselor, but there's 3 of them that need to be worked on. 2 of them actually need to be replaced. We have load restrictions on all of them right now. If we choose to do nothing, we'll just continue to have those load restrictions. They may get more extreme, but this is an opportunity to go out and get free, not free money, but money to replace the bridges. You know, we could be talking upwards of $1 million, of which we'd have to come up with $100,000 to get a replacement bridge. And that's why I would recommend that we move forward on it.
Well, absolutely. So none of these are the Santiam Water Control District bridges, or that they own?
No. I wouldn't bring forward anything that's not our own, Counselor.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I was trying to figure out if it was water control bridges or City of Stayton
Of the
bridges.
5, we had 2. One was a Water Control District bridge. For some reason, they thought was ours. And one was Marion County Bridge, which they thought was ours. The 3 that I moved forward with are they're city property.
Okay, thank you. That cleared it up.
Counselor, I'm going to ask for public comment real quick. Is there any public comment on Resolution 1072? I hear none, so we'll go back to council discussion. Any more questions for Lance, council? Okay, what did council discuss? What do they want to do?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Patty.
this one sort of seems like a no-brainer. I would like to move to approve Resolution 1072.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 1072 for the bridge grant application. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries 4-0. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Opportunity for communication from city staff. Alyssa, you got anything?
I do. I just want to remind you, it looks like last week, I had to pull my email up here, Julia had sent out an email to everyone on council about scheduling an executive session. So if you haven't responded back to her, please do ASAP. We're trying to get that scheduled for sometime early next week. And beyond that, I am still in a bit of denial, but this is Tammy's last meeting with us, and so thank you, Tammy, for everything, and I'm not going to let you leave on Thursday. So she may be here next time now. But we just wanted to say thank you to Tammy for everything, so
Thank you.
we'll miss you.
Councilor
Thank you,
Ort.
Tammy. I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes,
Yes, very much.
yes. And I
What-
think that's it. I don't think any staff? Oh.
New business that I'm to bring
Lance
forward.
has some.
Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, so Julia asked me to give you guys an update on the ASR project. As you know, in 2022, the city was successful in obtaining the OWRD Water Resources Grant for development of the Aquifer Storage and Recovery System. After months of negotiations with them, we've developed a contract. That grant is for $3.8 million. They separated that grant into 5 tasks: permitting, task 1, design of the ASR well facility, task 2. Task 3 is construct the ASR well facility. Task 4, design of the water system upgrades, and Task 5, construction of those water system upgrades. We've been approved to go forward with tasks 4 and 5. So we recently went out to, we signed a contract with Keller Associates and GSI, who were the primary consultants we worked with to get this grant. Keller Associates is now in the midst of designing the water line to be constructed in Shaft Road. We're hoping to have this design done by spring, and the construction of a 16-inch water line in Shaft Road to be started sometime late spring and concluded in the summer of next year. At that time, we're hopeful that the tasks 1 through 3 will be approved and we can go forward with the design of the ASR. That's really all I have. I wanted to bring that forward to you guys tonight, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're working on. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Lance. I have a question not related to the ASR, but there's been some communication in the community about the condition of the Ida Street project. Can you maybe elaborate on that? Is the condition of what they've paved so far the final, or are they going to come back and pave it from this point?
No. Generally, here's what happens at construction. We don't do any kind of final paving on any road while we're still constructing, because there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. They need to hook laterals up. So what you're seeing out there now is just temporary cold mix. And yeah, that can be a very bumpy ride. And you know, that's construction. That's what it is. You could go anywhere in the state where major construction projects are going on and you'll find the same thing. So I understand Stayton hasn't really had a whole lot of construction projects go on in the last 20 years, but I can assure you this is nothing out of the ordinary. And when this project will be done in the next month and a half, we will be paving, and it'll be a much better ride. We may have to expand what we actually had forecasted to do, because it looks like it is breaking up a lot more than we thought. So we might have to take some money out of the street dollars to pave that, and we'll have some discussions about that in the coming weeks. But as of right now, that's just cold mix out there, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, holding the rock in place. Yep. It's a bumpy ride, granted, but it's a construction zone. You shouldn't be going the speed limit going through a construction zone.
No, thank you.
Slow down a little bit, people.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that on the record, so thank you.
Very good.
Council, anybody else for Lance? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Alyssa? Council,
No,
you got
nothing
some?
further.
With that, it's an opportunity for communication from council and the mayor. Council. I'll add that we have currently have 3 budget committee positions open. It's never too early to start recruiting for the May meetings. So if there's anyone out there that wishes to participate in how your tax dollars get spent, please raise your hand and come see Alyssa and get an application in. And we also have a current position on the planning commission. So if anyone knows of anyone willing to sit through those meetings, by all means, step forward.
We also have a couple Parks and Recreation Board vacancies.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So it looks like we had need for a lot of volunteers.
Yes.
So there you go. Councilor Patty.
Yep, real quick. Where are we at with the Arts Commission these days?
That's a great question.
Okay. I would love an answer to it at some point.
Yes, I will. I
Okay,
will talk
thanks.
to Julia. Yeah.
Alyssa, maybe if Julia could put together a presentation on the volunteer needs for maybe the second meeting in November, or maybe, yeah, probably second meeting in November, that'd be good.
Sure. And we're also, I met with Christian this morning, our community engagement coordinator, and he's going to be doing some legwork on that and
Okay.
starting to get the word out as
Awesome.
well. So.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Hort.
I just wanted to mention there are a lot of passionate people in our community that care about our community. I see them every day on State Community Connections, and I would love for them to come out and apply for these positions so that they can help us shape what our community looks like.
Very
So
wise.
if you're listening to this, State Community Connections, go on the website, fill out an application.
Very wise words, Counselor. Very wise. With that, for the good of the order, is there anything else? Doesn't sound like it. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.